Hi, this is Chris from Orange Coast College's Art Department, reviewing how to shade a cube with markers in the industrial design style. First, let's start with how we might light a cube. Of course, we can move our lighting around any way that we want to achieve different effects. This is just using the sun lighting in SketchUp. But typically what we'd do is take a default scenario, which is something like this, which is pretty steep light, lighting the top surface the most, the left surface kind of, and leaving the right surface in shade and drawing out a short cast shadow horizontally. And this is what I recommend that we do for most of our exercises. But again, we can do any sort of lighting when we're illustrating for certain purposes. But if you're looking for the default, this is a good place to start. Now, SketchUp doesn't do a very good job with lighting, shade, and shadows. So I've gone ahead and exported a JPEG, opened it up in Photoshop so we can make some tweaks. So we want to establish some relative values for our markers. And to start, I'm going to change a little bit of what we've got going on. So first, I'm going to change our shadow to, around 90% black. And let's change our shaded side to, somewhere around 65, 70, maybe a little lighter than that. And our side receiving light, but not very directly. Let's do that guy, somewhere 30 to 40%, maybe a little lighter. And I'm going to leave the top white and just make the background white. So this is a pretty typical shading setup. Now let's see how we can do this in markers. So here I've got a cube drawn with a heavier silhouette line and medium interior lines with a little shadow, much like what we saw coming out of SketchUp. And I want to use some markers to give it approximately the same values. So close to white here on top, still receiving some light in the shade and cast shadow. So I'm going to use because I'm using these markers, they're really light. So I'm going to use my 10 and 20 in the paper across the top. I'm going to use my 30 and 40 over here. And I'm going to use my 50 and 60 over here and my 90 for the shadow. If you're working on small things, you can just use one marker. The bigger they get, the more you want to think about maybe having some gradations. And since my thing is sitting on the ground and the ground is apparently light, I'm going to assume some bounce is going to hit the ground and bounce back up. So the closer it is to that ground, a little bit more bounce you're going to get. So I'm going to go a little bit lighter to darker as I go up. And my light's coming from here, so I'm going to go paper white over to 20. So let's start with that. I'm going to get my 10 out, and I'm going to assume some paper white in the first third, and then I'm just going to take this sort of middle third with 10 and go 20 over there. And it's probably not even that discernible on video. These 10s and 20s are pretty darn light. Looking at the next darkest over here, this is where I'm going to take some 30 and 40. And I think I'm just going to rotate a little bit to get the angle I like. I'm going to start with my 40 and go down. So this is, using the chisel tip, I can almost match those lines. And I'll go into a little 30 here where we might have a little bit of bounce coming up. And I might go one stroke darker on the very top. Looks a little light up there. All right, same idea here for my 50 and 60. And these guys don't blend all that great, but we'll see how we do here. So I'm gonna start with my 60 on top. Again, trying to hold the angle of the chisel to best match the edge so I don't have to fill in. I'm gonna double stroke the 50, maybe even triple stroke that, just to make a closer blend with the 60. And then lastly, I'm gonna take my 90, wherever that is. And I wanna reinforce the direction of the table, so I'm gonna kind of come across here, get my edges first, so I can make sort of some vertical strokes to fill it in. Like that. That's a little wet. We'll see how it dries. And that's about it. I'm almost thinking my 30 and 40 is not dark enough over there. All right, now it's your turn. Draw out your boxes first, and then once all that is drawn, come on in over the top with your markers. Good luck.